China will join the international anti-piracy effort in the Gulf of Guinea by helping littoral states in the region build necessary infrastructure. China's former head of the Foreign Affairs Office, Ministry of National Defense, Qian Lihua, says Chinese soldiers will assist Western African countries in securing navigational safety in the Gulf of Guinea at a time when the region is facing an increasing threat from pirates. Speaking at a meeting on African peace and stability, the Chinese Major General also put forward proposals on fighting piracy in the region. He called on the international community to help regional countries strengthen their capacity by training maritime security troops and by putting more financial and technical resources into anti-piracy efforts. Well, let's get more details on this now. Tang Bo joins us live from Beijing. Tang Bo, China says it will help the region build the necessary infrastructure needed to fight piracy. What kind of help is China likely to give?
Provided the West African countries in the region with patrol vessels and has been actively building ports in Nigeria, Guinea, and Cote d'Ivoire. It has been 4 years since the UN Security Council has had a session dedicated to the issue. So China right now is calling on the international community to join the effort by holding an open debate. China's permanent representative to the UN said earlier in April that more efforts are needed for the construction, operation, and maintenance of ports in the region. And it is also necessary to help the coastal countries strengthen the training of their maritime security forces and provide them with necessary equipment such as advanced radar systems. Back to you.
All right, Tang Bo, I'll be coming back to you in just a minute. Just hang on, because I want to rope in Deji Badmus now, joining us live from Lagos. So Deji, just how bad is the problem of piracy in the Gulf of Guinea?
Well, Penina, it's really bad in the Gulf of Guinea. I mean, there's been several attacks, especially this year, the first half of this year. The report, of course, by the International Maritime Bureau saying about 44 attacks in the Gulf of Guinea. And the saddest part of it is that the bulk of those attacks actually happened in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, over half of the attacks happened in Nigeria. The head of the Nigerian Navy here has also said between January this year and April this year, there were about 30 attacks in the Niger Delta region of the country, and that 16 of those attacks were successful. And, you know, that has actually forced the Nigerian government to do something about it. But it's a terrible situation, especially in the Niger Delta region of the country, because there is a mix, of course, of politics in this whole thing, because what we are seeing is that most of these attacks are carried out by militants in the Niger Delta region who say they're actually fighting for a greater share of the resources now for that region. Penina?
Well, let's go back to Beijing. Tang Bo, China has also put forward a few proposals on fighting piracy in the region. What are some of these proposals?
Well, indeed, earlier at a meeting on African peace and stability, Qian Lihua, former head of the Foreign Affairs Office of China's Ministry of National Defense, put forward a few proposals on fighting piracy in the region. The proposals include strengthening the regional countries' capacity by training maritime security troops and putting more financial and technical resources, as you just mentioned, into anti-piracy efforts. And besides, the Major General believed that economic development on land is a weapon against piracy at sea. He called on the international community to increase assistance to the coastal states in light of their economic and social development plans and help them eradicate poverty, speed economic and social development, and improve employment. He also said that China welcomes third-party initiatives regarding cooperation on peace and stability and security in Africa on the basis, of course, of African consent and African dominance. Back to you.
Right. And Deji, a maritime report released last year said the piracy is linked to political developments in Nigeria. What efforts is the government making to fight piracy?
Well, first, let me just say this. In April, late April this year, the Nigerian Navy actually launched an operation it calls Sareteku. Now, when it launched that operation, as I said earlier, between January and April this year, the Nigerian Navy confirming that there were actually 30 attacks. But when that operation was launched, between then and now, The Nigerian Navy says we've had just 7 attacks, with just one of them successful. Now, last Saturday, the Navy also launched a second phase of that operation, deploying 10 gunships to that region. I'm talking about the Niger Delta region now. And the hope is that with the launch of this second phase of the operation, we might see a drastic reduction now, if not a complete elimination of sea piracy in that region. So the Nigerian Navy has actually sent 10 warships to the region. In fact, the government says it is expecting more warships to come in, and gunboats. There are actually 30 gunboats in that region, and the Navy says it wants to maintain a constant presence in the that area now, so as to stop this attack. So the government is taking it seriously, and the government is equally training an amphibious battalion it intends to send to that region as well to help stop these attacks. Not just sea pirates now, but also stop attacks on oil facilities in the Niger Delta region. Penina.
All right, Teji Badmas, live for us in Lagos, Tangbu live in Beijing. Many thanks for joining us.